Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
wanted to, thank you for your time today to kind of spend some time just having a chat. I know a lot of the audience here is very interested in like the lessons that people that have been in business, like entrepreneurs, go through.
Yeah.
But like, really, I wanted to start off to like let you just give a chance to, just tell people a little bit about your business, what it is
Yeah.
that you do, and how long
Yeah.
you've been in business. Just start us off with a bit of background on who you are.
Sure. Thanks for asking that, Sean. So my background is I have been doing training, facilitating, coaching for the past 18 years and starting my own company, which is not very easy at all the time. And you picked up the right word, entrepreneur. It's been 18 years now. If I was to say that it's been smooth sailing ever since, I would be lying to myself. There's always challenges, but I think one of the things that drives entrepreneurs is the ability to go through different situations, go through different waves of highs and lows, and know that at the end of the day, one day you'll come out successful. So I think that's what has been driving me, and the thing that drives me as an entrepreneur is because I believe every day is a learning day. I mean, you could have had a terrible day, but what did you learn from it? You could have a great day, but what did
Hmm.
you learn from it? So I think that mindset is something that's quite interesting to have as an entrepreneur. Been doing it for 18 years now, working with different companies, having fun at the same time. I think that also goes together with being an entrepreneur, besides all the sweat that we go through to get things happen.
And I've heard that from other guests as well, right? They would say like mindset's always important. There's the passion that probably gets you
Yeah,
starting the business,
yeah,
and then there's the discipline of like maintaining it, like keep going every
yes,
day when it's really tough.
yeah,
And then I
yeah,
like your comment around the aspect of fun that came up. I was
yes,
talking to Joe Foster. He's the founder of
yeah,
Reebok, and he
yeah,
brought up that was one of his main points. He said, if you're not having fun, it's almost
yeah,
like what's the point, right? Like you got to have fun in business if you're doing it because you got
yeah,
to be able to survive the hard times and enjoy the good times.
yeah. Incidentally, you mentioned this. One of the topics that I've been delving quite a lot now is on how to get people or team members or staff in organizations to have that entrepreneurial spirit and drive.
Mm.
So the benefits that they see out of having this spirit is, yes, they may not be having all the tools to be able to drive a business, but at least if within their constraints, within their departments, within their areas, if they can have that entrepreneurial drive and spirits together with the tools that allows them to do so, they're already one step ahead in ensuring that they make themselves successful as well as their department, their unit successful. And I've been delivering quite a lot of those sessions and seeing a lot of good benefits that they're getting out of it.
Are
Again,
you
having
are
that.
you using the term like a intrapreneur, like a internal entrepreneur? Is that a term
Yeah,
that
so
has come up?
entrepreneurship, absolutely spot on. Entrepreneurship, but they stayed away from using the word only entrepreneur. They wanted to use the word entrepreneur because they want them to actually really feel like they're business owners of their own units. So by putting the word entrepreneur there, sometimes it's restrictive to what they can do only,
Okay.
but they really want them to go out and about and take some risks. So that happens with more with connecting them to a business owner, an entrepreneur type of mindset. So we did have that
And
debate.
you've
What
been
do you
okay,
think?
and you've
Yeah,
been working with some of the you've been working. I know you probably can't share like maybe you can
yeah,
share some of the brands, but I'll say you've been
yeah,
working for 18 years and you've touched upon companies from when I met
yeah,
you a long time ago. It
yeah,
was basically you were touching upon hospitality, but
yeah.
I understand in that was at a certain time. Now you've expanded to leading organizations across the region. So are you
Yeah.
working in multiple countries now? Like what's kind of the span of where you focus?
So I work both Asia-wide now and sometimes up to Europe as well. So Asia-wide covering different industries, all the way from hospitality to FMCGs, chemical industries, automotive, luxury retail has been coming up quite a lot now. And even in terms of steel manufacturing, that's also a big part of our portfolio. So I think it's across a wide range of industries. And as you know, Sean, I mean, when we talk about business skills, people skills, soft skills, is applicable to all different industries. So the benefit that going back to where I started, it's fun because I get to learn about the different industries as I go along, training them too.
Yeah, going back to your
Yeah,
point of like learning
yeah,
something new every day, right? And
yeah,
you're learning from
yeah,
your customers as much as they're learning from you.
yeah,
I like to
yeah,
think about it as more like facilitation than actually training. Like you
yeah,
know everything, and everybody's listening
yeah,
to the person at the front of the room.
yeah,
Yes, there is some of that, but I
yeah.
think it's more about the powerful sessions come out of facilitation, right?
Yes, yes. So we do a 30-70% approach. So 30% is all the concepts we give them, but 70% is adding their real challenges into the concepts we share with them. So that way they're able to actually practice, have those Q&A sessions with each other, their own teams, with the facilitator as well, to see how they can best apply it so that the minute they walk out from that room, at least they are able to go and apply those skills immediately. So that's always our focus. 30% is
Okay.
concept, 70% is you apply it, really practice it in this safe environment. Once you walk out, you've got all the bullets that you can go out with.
And so give me a sense of the
Yeah,
type of individual that's going to
yeah,
be your customer.
yeah.
It's a mid-size or it's a large-size company. Is it is it a mid-manager? Is it executive? Just give me a sense of what the target customers that you typically work with are.
So mostly work with large organizations. So there are multinational organizations. So I mean, globally present. They're probably revolving around the Fortune 3000 type of companies.
Mhm.
And the levels we do, so we do from, let's say, mid-level managers to senior managers, including CEOs, where we do executive coaching with them. The add-on to that would be we do a lot of sales programs as well. So those are really pretty much the frontline staff. Like if it's retail, they're out there, either it could be in a boutique, it could be in the farms. Um, so that's very much retail frontline driven. So we do go down to that as well.
Okay, so ranging from the person right in front of the customer to the person that's
Yes,
managing the division,
yes,
basically, with the
yeah.
CEO.
Yeah, was a CEO. But mainly, it's probably between mid managers to senior managers to CEO. That's the main part of it. From time to time, we would do sales training for the frontline stuff.
And so going into like say 2020, well, last year and
Yeah,
this year, obviously
yeah,
this whole AI, generative AI thing has
yeah,
exploded, right?
yeah,
And people are starting to there's a
yeah,
certain disruption in certain roles, right, that
yeah,
are happening, whether it's
yeah,
in publishing. I was talking to, somebody who owns a bookshop
yeah,
in another episode. They were talking about how in that industry there's quite a disdain for AI,
yeah,
and she was a bit more open to it to say, there's opportunities even in that industry. It's not meant
yeah,
to kill off
yeah,
writing. There's still human beings that are needed for things.
yeah.
But I mean, when you're dealing with your customers, are you hearing that they're having these concerns? What's been the general sense of how this is affecting people's need to learn different skills?
So actually, let me begin by reflecting on myself first in what we do. So, to be really honest, about 3 years before, I was also in the same mind frame that what's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to us facilitators? Because a lot of
No
AI,
more trainers, right?
no more trainers, right? No more trainers. Everybody's going to the app to do the learning over there, and that's where everything's going to go. So it was a good moment of self-reflection. What do we do from this point? And so it's a learning curve for us, I have to be very honest, to ensure that number one, how are we going to ensure that we are AI capable? And number two, us as trainers, facilitators standing out there running programs,
Yeah,
what's our role then? Right. So we actually had to really dig deep until we found out that we can coexist. We can do
yeah,
AI as well,
absolutely.
but that will not take away from a person who is really able to understand the nitty-gritty of the challenges that the team or the company faces and put that into context that makes them learn easier. So we can coexist together. And I think when I look at this from our client's perspective, they also have the same feeling that yes, AI
Mm.
will take over some of the roles. And honestly, I mean, we can see it happening everywhere. Let's even start going back before AI started. The time when robots came up. I'd like to share this story in Singapore. I was staying in a hotel where in the evening I'd normally ask for some bottles of water. And typically it's a 4 or 5 star hotel. You request for a bottle of water, they'll send it up to the room and they'll knock on the room and simply say, oh, your water is here. Fine. That's the standard. So in this hotel, I order a bottle of water and suddenly I get a phone call saying, oh, your bottle has arrived in front of the room. To me, I'm like, why are you calling me? Why can't you just simply knock the door?
Why did they knock on the door,
Why
right?
can't you just knock on the door? Why do you have to call me? And the minute I opened the door, I actually saw a robot over there delivering 4 bottles of water for me. So that was like, wow, that's taking over a person's role already, right?
Yes.
And then it was so nice because I saw the robot actually walked away from the lobby. It wished me good night. Everything walked away, went into the got down to the lobby and parked itself where it normally parks, all by itself. I mean, it was a good
Yeah.
view to see, but think about it, how many jobs got lost because of that? So the trend has been before the introduction of AI. AI is just probably fastened that whole process now. But then according to the client's view, yes, that's one part, but we still have that human factor that's important. So they are aware to an extent, but not completely thinking that it's going to take over everybody's role. So those of them who have been
Mm.
affected, reskill them to a different role.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
a lot of positions, a lot of companies are thinking about this. They're thinking, this is a transformative technology that's going to change
yeah,
how people work. I mean, like, I was talking to a consultant earlier today,
yeah,
and he's like, you know what? We were talking, and we said, it's like before when we used to say that term mobile first when
yeah,
they were designing a lot of SaaS software, and they said it's all about mobile first. Everybody wants to have it on their phone, and it should be like a consumer app. Even if you're in
yeah,
the enterprise, you want it to be very simple to use.
yeah,
And now I would like to say, I don't think I'm coining the term, but I
yeah,
think it's more like AI first. I'm not saying to remove your brain from the
yeah,
situation. I'm
yeah,
saying like at least think about, do I want to spend my cognitive load,
yeah,
my energy on
yeah,
this task when I know very well I could turn to this assistant
yes,
and it would probably help me get started much faster.
yes,
So it's almost like AI first,
yeah,
in a
yeah,
sense,
AI first.
where you think, can I take advantage of this tool
Yeah,
before I move on to the next step?
yeah,
Because maybe in the long run, it's going to shorten the time for me to get something done, or I'll be more clear in how I explain something.
yeah.
It's
It's,
it's uh, it's it's fascinating to see the massive changes and the tools coming out every day and
yeah.
how it's going to impact all levels from CEO down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another example I want to share is recently last week I was having a conversation with another trainer, Raju as well. So there's this company that's driving AI-driven learning solutions. So one of the app that they showed me, one of the learning modules they showed me was how how when you want to have somebody practice assertiveness or assertive conversations, so you actually talk into the phone and there's this person like AI, somebody's there and then who's responding. It's like, oh, by the way, your tone was not good for assertiveness. You need to change your tone
Okay.
a little bit more. I'm like, wow. So when we went through that, Raju and myself were thinking, so what about us? Where do we go now? Because it's getting quite close. So we always have
Mm.
to be on our toes and see, okay, so how can we coexist? I would use the word coexist.
And
Yeah,
I think everybody is going to use artificial intelligence, whether it's generative or it's machine learning,
yeah,
forecasting inventory and sales or whatever. But we're all going to have to look at these jobs and say, which part of my jobs can I offload
yeah,
to something that is an assistant? And whether you're a trainer, whether you're in sales, whether
yeah,
you're in customer support, like
yeah,
everyone is getting impacted.
yes,
And the smaller business, in my conversations, I'm finding that the smaller businesses are more eager to kind of experiment,
yeah,
whereas the enterprises They're a little bit slower because there's always that concern about data privacy and the governance.
Yeah,
And like, there's obviously bigger concerns when you're a much larger organization. So when you're talking to your customers, are
yeah,
you getting a sense that the enterprises are now warming up to it, or what's your sense? Because you're seeing companies like, the big tech companies,
yeah,
Salesforce and
yeah,
ServiceNow and the rest. They're obviously having these offerings as
yeah.
part of these enterprise plays that they're going through. Are you hearing from the leadership out there that we're desperate to learn about this? Can you help us like navigate this, or are they kind of still a little bit hesitant? And I know maybe it might depend on which country you're in, which
Yeah.
industry, maturity, and all that. But what's your sense
So
in your exposure?
if we took away the tech sector and on the all the other sectors, so retail or it could be FMCG, it could be manufacturing, what I'm finding
Mm.
is that yes, AI is something that they are talking about, but to dig deeper and understand what are they going to use it for, how it's going to impact them, how is it going to help them, I think the conversations around those areas are still loose, meaning they probably don't have, they're probably just on the very bottom level of using AI in their respective business, but not completely embracing AI yet to help them up. So I think it's still in a very infancy stage from what I see from some of my clients. So they talk about
Mm.
AI, they talk about,
Mm.
we're using AI to help us do a little bit of research on our numbers, but it's not completely embedded within that organization.
It's not like thinking back to when everybody was kind of moving to the cloud,
Yeah,
right? From on premise. A
yeah,
lot of companies were saying we're cloud first.
yeah,
The whole strategy is moving the business onto the cloud.
yeah,
Like it's not quite there yet.
yeah,
It's getting there for some leading companies,
yeah,
but I think a lot of them are still kind of maybe don't want to be the first to try. They want to
yeah,
wait and see other success stories,
yeah.
but then they lose the benefit of innovating faster than the other companies that are willing to take the
Yeah.
risk and try things out faster.
And I also think that adding on to that, I also think that there's a certain level of I wouldn't use the word fear, but not really trusting what AI has to spit out. Because just take just take any of the AI models out there that we can use to search information. We don't know if the information we're getting is real or not. And that's at an English level. So when I do a lot of translations, when I use AI to help me translate some of the information, those translations get even more thrown out that what the hell's going on? I don't even understand it anymore. Right? So
Yeah.
I think when we take AI into the next level of putting language capability into I think that's still, to me, it hasn't really reached its full potential or capacity yet.
And by language, you mean Thai,
Yeah,
Hindi, like
Thai
okay,
or
like
yeah, any
okay,
other
yeah,
language. Yeah,
yeah, because all the original models seem to be have been trained on
on
English,
English.
right?
Yeah,
So when you try to go and my partner's Thai. She
yeah,
goes and tries to translate something in Thai from
yeah,
English, and you look at it and you're like, "This is definitely not
yeah,
right. Like, it
exactly.
doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense."
yeah. So I think in that.
And we were before.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was saying, and we actually started the show. We were talking about how people will maybe look for something to write the content for them, and
Yeah,
they'll realize that just makes stuff up
yeah,
because it's not it's not the same as like googling something and finding a source and that's the website for the company and it's truth.
yeah,
It's taking a probability of all of the tokens that are in the
yeah.
system and kind of compiling this stuff and says, well, the likelihood it's correct, but it doesn't mean it's 100% correct.
Correct. Yeah,
It's probabilistic. It's not deterministic,
yeah,
but it is starting to go out and find sources. So things
yes,
like Perplexity
yeah,
and these other
yeah,
ones are starting to connect to the sources and
yeah,
giving you, at least as a user, the ability to go deeper and check stuff.
yeah,
So it's not just like when you before the technology, if you met a stranger,
yeah.
like would you take 100% of what they say as
You'll go back
no?
and wet it out first.
You'd go vet it out, right? You would say, well, that guy sounds
Yeah,
credible, but maybe I should go
yeah,
like take some research.
yeah,
And I think people have to remember that these tools are, again, they're just tools.
Yeah.
They're not meant to replace your critical thinking
Yeah.
skills.
Exactly. So actually, that's interesting, Sean, because we're saying that we should still go back and kind of have a way to proof it out, whatever we've been given. At the same time, if you notice, I mean, of course, you would know this, is that organizations run in a really fast paced. So with the fast pace, automatically one tends to believe in what is being fed out easier. So,
There's a bias.
right,
Yeah.
there's a
There's definitely a
bias.
cognitive bias.
Right, there's a bias. So again, awareness of us to always have that, okay, I know we got this information. Let me take some time. Let me ensure it's correct before we can even move forward. So I think that's something that has to be put into place. Because I've seen a lot of times where people
Yeah.
just, believe in what is being spat out. And then only to find out
Yeah.
after a while, I should have checked before.
Well, you see that everyone now is starting, not everyone, sorry, it's generalization, but
Yeah.
a lot of concern is that people are living in their information bubbles.
Yeah.
And these algorithms are just spitting more things that support their bias,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Whatever it is, political, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, people have to remember that there is value in connecting to humans
Yes.
and, vetting things
Yes.
and actually taking the time for deep thought
Yeah.
and mindfulness
Yeah.
and reflection
Yeah.
and strategic thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those things need to go away
No.
just because we have speed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes speed is a good thing, but other times, it can cause big problems,
Yeah.
right? If you're triggering actions off of some of this false data or unethical data that might be in AI systems,
Yeah.
like you have to put these guardrails in place, I think,
Right.
and I think the industry is trying to figure out how exactly do they do that.
Yeah.
And then governments are trying to figure out how do we regulate this
Yeah.
thing. So it is a bit of a wild west
Yes.
right now,
It is.
where companies are like, well, we know we need to innovate. We're not sure, but I think the ones that have billions of dollars can kind of tend to innovate faster.
Yeah.
But for the smaller businesses or maybe the regional businesses, there's that inherent risk that they have to also consider.
Maybe you should come up with a program called Living with AI, whereby you get the AI information, but you take 10 minutes to kind of ensure that's the right info before you move forward with something.
Mm.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the mindset, going back to what
Yeah.
you talked about,
Yeah.
right? In your mindset,
Yeah.
thinking strategically and thinking
Yeah.
critically
Yeah.
and saying, we need to understand the systems, but we need to understand a bit like where they are in their maturity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Correct.
If you remember before, like when the iPhone
Yeah.
came out, right? At first, it was like no enterprises wanted to use
Yes.
it because they thought it wasn't secure.
Yes.
It was all BlackBerry,
Yeah. Yes. Everybody was all
right? And
BlackBerry. Yeah.
Nokia.
Yeah. Until they
And then it took time for it to kind of get their approval because everyone started using it anyway. And they just started saying, we don't care if we're working for your enterprise, we're going to use it. And then eventually, the enterprises were in a position where they said, okay, it's secure enough. Now we can start using it in companies. But I think the same thing will happen with AI as well, like for some of these generative tools.
The only thing is that it's moving at such a fast speed and fast pace. So just for an example, my son just graduated, but whenever I go and see the work they do, everything has an AI attached to that work that can solve it for them. Even if you take a camera and you place it on a problem that they have, there'll be an AI that will solve the problem for you. So at that age, if they're already getting answers that easy, the normal tendency is I will believe it because they've been all brought up with the age of, hey, everything's all online. All the answers are over here.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll be easier for them to tend to believe what's being spat out.
Yeah.
I think that's another view that we'll have to take into account. Say, oh, okay, hold on, it's good. There's probability that it's correct, but check first. Even at that age itself, they need to be doing that vetting.
I mean, we see that in every industry, though, right? Imagine like years ago, everyone was very hands-on and knew how to build everything. Probably a lot of people were really handy with plumbing and electrician, and like right now, there's a huge demand for tradespeople.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do anything. We don't know how to fix anything.
Yes.
Right?
So true.
we outsource
yeah,
everything. These things will, like, over time, there will be new technologies and developments. Like, many people knew how to
yeah,
farm, right? And now a lot of us are abstracted from the
yeah,
farming because we go to a
yeah,
supermarket. So there's all these like levels of abstraction from the
yeah,
source. And I think the more we can understand at least how it
yeah,
works, we don't need to be a data scientist. I'm not a data scientist, but I'm very interested in
yeah,
AI. And as long as I know enough that I can say, okay, you know, I know that I'm not going to just believe something
yeah,
100%. Like, I want to get a sense of how this thing actually
yeah,
works. And I think it's good to question
yeah,
things, especially if you're relying on critical business
yeah,
decisions on a tool that you're not sure if it's telling you the right
yeah,
answer.
correct, yes. I think if we look at AI 5 years from now, it'll be a completely different picture how it assists and how it helps us. Completely different. Yeah,
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 100%. I mean, if you think about ChatGPT November
yeah,
2022 to
yeah,
today, I think voice may be out now as we're speaking, or it's coming out to some
yeah,
users, and you can speak to it now
yeah,
more naturally instead of having to type in
yeah.
there. And that's going to make it feel like it's almost like a person you're
Exactly.
talking to. And
But
right,
that's the thing.
and that's where I think for your
Yeah,
role, you're gonna start to think, okay, if I'm doing training sessions and you're facilitating workshops, maybe you need to incorporate these things into the
yeah,
workshop to train people. This is how you talk
yeah,
to it. This is how you
yeah,
use it.
yeah,
I'm thinking if there's other companies
yeah,
like yours that are out
yeah,
there, everyone's got to think, well, how do we use this technology to make a
yes,
change? Because, like, I'm sure in your 18 years of
yes.
experience, there's been different
Oh yeah,
disruptors that you've had to think
yeah,
through, whether it's
yeah,
financial or political upheaval in
yeah. Or
Thailand
even COVID for
or
that
whatever
matter.
the
Yeah,
COVID. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So there's always something to
yeah,
adapt to.
yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's for us, it's always a work in progress thinking how do we stay up to date with it? Because that's moving really fast. So how do we stay up to date?
So as somebody who's been in business for that long successfully, and you've been working with the biggest companies, in the
Yeah,
region, across countries, different
yeah.
languages, you're doing training in different languages as
Yes.
well. What's your recommendation to, like, other people that are thinking about starting a business? Like, well, what are the kind of things they need to think about, like, beyond just the passion of day one? I'm excited to do
Yeah.
it. Like, what else do they need to consider to really make it past those first early
So I
days?
think I think as an entrepreneur starting your own business, no matter what field you're in, yeah, just know that there will be bumps. To me, the first year it seems very exciting because you have your passion that drives you with it. But then after the second year, when you may not get the amount of customers that you were looking for, you may not get the amount of revenue that you're looking for, that'll be a down. And to be able to kind of sustain yourself, number one, to be able to kind of persevere to all those things, I think perseverance is key for an entrepreneur. Taking risks, because I've noticed this with myself. When I refuse to change based on instances that happened earlier on, it made me play safe all the time. But the world is moving ahead. So as an entrepreneur, always take risks. I mean, if you don't take risks, there's no rewards. We all know that. So my two keys is
Mm.
persevere and take risk. If you have the passion, you can persevere, you can take risks. I think these are three elements that will get you going.
Oh, that's really good
Yeah.
advice. I think a lot of people can to benefit from that. We talked about AI and we talked about how it's impacting training, and you've got some
Yeah.
concerns about how does that impact your
Yeah.
business. Where do you see the training, the area that you work in? Where do you see this kind of going?
So,
Where do you where
so I see that the training field will still be there because the human, well, for the foreseeable 10 years, I'll just take 10 years because I can't do more than that. I don't know what's going to happen, new technology after that. But for the 10 years, I think there will still be a lot of involvement for trainers to train organizations because it is still that human element. It's still that soft skill where you still require that emotional intelligence. You still require that empathy. You still require that sense of connection to the participants, to the people. I think that factor is still important. Whereas up until now, AI can do, but not to that extent. It's not as close to us humans yet. So for the next 10 years, I think the best way to proceed for an organization, including us, is to leverage what AI has at the moment, but don't discount yourself. Because when there's a problem, clients will call you directly and say, hey, listen, can you do this? Can you do that? They will not reach out to AI to help support them. Right? They still reach to another human to discuss to see what's the way out, because that trust level is still there. If somebody's going to rely on AI completely, means they trust the AI to give them the best solutions. I don't think we're there yet. Right? That's first. Second, in what we've started doing, and perhaps I think a lot of the training order organizations do, is we use app-based training or AI in the training sessions itself. So we are running a, let's say, influencing workshop. We don't just use ourselves like before. So we put it together with, let's say, a competition on a program that they have to involve themselves in influencing. The theories, concepts come from us, but then when they're actually working to influence a particular situation, that's all done virtually. So that way they're having a mix of,
This is a simulation
yeah,
type of exercise you're
yes,
talking about?
simulate, yeah, right word to use, simulation, correct. Yeah. So just kind of doing
Mm,
both parallelly at the same time. Yeah.
right. And then you've got a number of team members on your team that you've worked with, plus other
Yes.
partnerships. So as somebody who has to lead others, has to kind of
Yeah.
coordinate team
Yeah.
members, and also build relationships with other companies, maybe because you can't be a master
Yep.
of everything and every kind of
Yeah.
topic. So how do you network? How do you build those relationships? Like where how do you build the trust with these other companies that are out there? And what advice do you give others that are kind of trying to build up their networks?
So, so at the moment, we're lucky in that way that typically we've worked word of mouth. So our clients actually talk for us and recommend us to others. In fact, I just got a call yesterday from another client that somebody else had recommended. So that has worked for us. So that's our network of creating customers. Of course, I have to admit, um,
From
yeah,
results, right?
and I have to admit that if we rely on that in today's world, it's not enough because we have to be present on social media, on
Mm.
LinkedIn, because I'm seeing that a lot of people are actually going on LinkedIn, posting what they're doing, and the clients are connecting directly. So the word of mouth piece may not be the best way anymore, right? So, and that's why we also go into that,
Yes.
having a team dedicated to kind of get us out on the social media platforms, LinkedIn, working on that at the moment. In terms of facilitators, for us having a team, again, some partners working with us for the past, I think, 20, 30 years now, doing different languages. So that is all completely heavily reliant on trust based to get the network of
And
traders.
how do you build that like relationship that lasts so long? You've got people you've worked with for years and years and years. So like you got some kind of magical sauce there. How do you make sure those relationships
I
based
think
on?
it's a two-way street. If you're able to kind of get some work for them at the same time and rely on what they have to deliver without being really detailed and hey, listen, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Just kind of, give them an overview of what needs to be done, throw it out to them, they will deliver it in the same way they can trust us as well, that whatever they give us, it'll be done, credible, reliable, and there's that relationship that we connect from time to time all the time. You know, it could be on a quarterly call, it could be on a monthly call, or just the other day I need translations in another language. I said, hey, listen, can you help me out? So that constant touch is something that I think luckily we've had this where we've relied on each other for different tasks without any challenges, issues, and we've been just working on that. I think close relationship with them is it's quite important.
Well, we're getting close on time here, so I was going to ask you to leave us with basically a couple wise words,
Wow.
that you would tell anyone who's either in business. They could be a corporate
Yeah.
person, like for example, you're teaching the corporate executives. You're also teaching a lot of people about entrepreneurialism and things to think about. So, what big takeaway for the lesson of the week, maybe, that you want to focus
I
on?
think lesson of the week is, well, that's a good big question, Sean. I think one way that I can put it that works for everyone, for entrepreneur, for even if you're working as a CEO or even within the organization, different levels, is always get up in the morning, go to work with a mindset that you're going to learn something today. Because just by going with that mindset of you're going to learn something today, it allows you to do more of that important part, which is listen to others. It allows you for important part of kind of once you listen, analyze things before you respond out. So always go in with the mindset of it's a learning day. And it helps you tune yourself for the rest of the day well. So I'd go with that as one of the keys for the week.
Take
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, I encourage everybody if you're looking for learning and development, training, sales training, what other programs do you run? Just so everybody knows.
So leadership management, new managers, new supervisors, influencing, sales, negotiations, anything got to do with people skills. Coaching, we're here to help support you in different languages. So not only in English, it could be in English and Thai. We have teams in Cantonese, Mandarin, Bahasa. So the benefit is one point of contact. You're able to do all different languages.
Excellent. And the website is
Yes.
vpconsultants.net. So check it
So,
out. And we will hope to see more of your social media out there
yep.
on LinkedIn, as
I
you
look forward to
mentioned.
that too, Sean.
And yes, great. All right. Well, thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
And appreciate the time you gave
Yeah.
us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.